She told me not to step on the cracks. I told her not to fuss and relax. Pretty little thing stopped me in my tracks. But now she sleeps with
Hi, Genderqueer chat. It's Nicole here. I guess I am the new Wednesdays officially, so I am so happy to be doing this now. And so I guess I'll get right into the topic. It was one word, which was entitlement. And I have some notes for this one. So as far as entitlement, I wanted to read like a definition that I really liked in case there's sort of any question on what it means. But this is more of a kind of a casual definition of what entitlement means. Typically, entitlement has to do with like legal issues and things. It's not necessarily just an attitude, although it can be, and in our language a lot of times we do use it that way. But basically, entitlement refers to a notion or belief that oneself is deserving of some particular reward or benefit. So I thought what I'd talk about as far as entitlement goes, I'm going to do two parts. The first part is going to have to do with what I believe I'm entitled to as a human being and that I'm not currently getting. The second part I'm going to talk about is what others believe that they are entitled to know about me, which I've come across, and I know a lot of you probably have too. So the first part here, number one thing that I feel I'm entitled to is I feel I'm entitled to marry and share benefits with whoever I decide to end up with. I feel like no matter the gender that I end up with or anything like that, I believe that I am entitled to be able to share benefits with that person, have the same rights as everyone else does. And this is, I'm just talking about America because that's the only really I know, only laws I'm familiar with. Currently there's a few states where you can get married, same gender, but not here in Texas and not in most states. So I believe that that's really important, and I think we're in a good direction. I think that America eventually will get to the point where all the states, have it legal and you can just marry whoever you want to. I also feel like there should be more gender ambiguity. I don't know if I'm entitled to that, but I hope eventually there's more ambiguity in getting a license and you don't necessarily even have to specify a gender, because there wouldn't be any reason if everybody could marry any gender. So that's number one that I'm not receiving now. The second entitlement that I believe that I'm entitled to as a human being is a zero tolerance policy at all workplaces for any kind of harassment or discrimination against anyone based on being trans or being gay or queer. Currently, my work does not have this. Fortunately, everyone at work, except maybe my boss, he doesn't completely know everything, but all my coworkers know I'm genderqueer, and there's of course not going to be any issues there. They're wonderful people, but I know that a lot of people face this because there is usually no policy on file for harassment of trans people. There's no sexual harassment, but that's so broad. It might not even be sexual. It could just be, asking inappropriate questions and things like that. And there's absolutely no education in the workplace, over these issues. And I think it's so important, So I guess that would be my number two entitlement is, no tolerance for hate. And I think as a human being, that's not too much to ask of your fellow human beings. So, okay. Number three that I'm entitled to, this is my last one that I feel like I'm entitled to, and all of these have to do with, like laws and things that actually can be passed. I have a lot of personal entitlements that I feel that I may be entitled to in some ways, but those are a little more subjective, and I felt like I wanted to keep it on track this time, this topic on legal terms. So the third is, I believe, this one's actually a little less law-like and more societal. but I still thought it was worth mentioning. I feel like I'm entitled to express my gender in any way I see fit, even if that doesn't match society standards of what that presentation of gender might be. For instance, I, enjoy exploring my masculine side. I enjoy, dressing in a more masculine fashion sometimes. And I do feel masculine at times, but I do not feel like a cis male. Even my masculine side is still artistic and is still sensitive and is not, a power lifter. I mean, that's just not me. I'll never be that kind of guy. I'll never be that kind of girl. I'll never be that person. And I think that sometimes I feel like that when I'm dressing in a more masculine way, that people expect me to do things like, I don't know, when I'm doing that, it seems like that I've gotten a lot of feedback of that I'm not really masculine enough to be, male. And I'm not male and I'm not female. I'm genderqueer, thus genderqueer chat, genderqueer topics. But I think what they're meaning is that I don't fit, society's standard of masculinity. And that's okay with me. I like it. But I wish that I didn't get as much resistance about it. And I wish that people didn't, for instance, try to give me tips on how to be more manly or or it's the opposite. I'll be helping out lifting. For instance, this weekend I helped a friend move. Her parents were there. And her dad, grabbed a chair from me and my girlfriend. We were fine. We were carrying this heavy chair, but we were carrying out the U-Haul. He grabbed it and he was like, "Oh, don't worry, ladies. Let the men get it." I know he was trying to be nice and, make it easier, but it just made me feel like shit because, I felt like, he didn't perceive me as queer, or anything. Or he saw me as this helpless female, which I feel like I'm the opposite or not even close to that at all. So it's just society's, views on things sometimes I feel aren't fair, and I feel like sometimes I feel entitled to be able to present in any way I want and not have assumptions made about my gender and what I can or cannot do regardless. So that's my spiel there. The next little part of the video I was going to talk about what I've noticed that other people are entitled to know about me that I think are things they're not entitled to know. And these are things I know a lot of genderqueer and trans people deal with. One is others believe they're entitled to read my gender and call me ma'am or sir or female or male pronouns. People do believe in this society that because things are presented in a very black and white fashion, a very male and female fashion, I think that people just assume that you want that you want them as respect, to say ma'am or sir, things like that. I think it's offensive. But when people are trying to be kind to you by being respectful, I feel bad for being offended. But again, why don't we have more education on this? Why doesn't society take a step up and say, hey, we don't need gender references in every single sentence that we make. So that's something I've noticed that people think that they're entitled to, is to go ahead and box you in a gender. Another thing is, I know this probably happens more with trans people, but this is something I've noticed just hanging out with queer folks. Others believe they're entitled to know your genital status, which I think is fucked up. It doesn't happen as much with me because most people assume I'm female and they assume my genitals, but I know people that they're harder to read than I am. I mean, as far as their assigned birth sex is harder to read than maybe mine would be. And I know that I've witnessed so many times, several times, people asking, what the status of this person's genitals are. Like, so are you born this or born that? It's just really rude, and I don't know why people feel like they're entitled to know, you know, these personal things about you that maybe you don't even connect with your genitals, you know, and maybe that's something that's really uncomfortable for you, and I think it's just unnecessary that people think they're entitled to that. I do not think people are entitled to know that. And so those are my entitlement issues both ways. But I'd like some feedback on this. I mean, what do you guys feel like you're entitled to, you know, as a queer person or as a human being in general? It doesn't have to be about gender. But what do you guys think? I mean, do you think that people are entitled to know personal things about you? Do you think that you're entitled to the same rights as other people? What do you think? All right, I'm so happy to be on Genderqueer Chat, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Have a good one.